So we're going to do something a little bit different today because I can do it, because I feel like it. And I get to talk about two of my favorite things, wine and NFTs. And this combination is something that I've talked about a lot, about how the world of digital assets collides with the world of real assets and some of the values of this space. And I've got with me David here from Club dVIN, who's going to talk about what you guys are doing, because I think it's amazing. And we've been partnering with the Real Vision community, our token holders,
Sure.
and they've lapped this up or drunk it up fast.
Sure.
They've enjoyed this whole process of getting involved.
Sip their way into the future.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So tell us what the hell you're up to.
Sure. So at dVIN, we've built a platform for collectible and investment grade wines to do really two things. First, to tokenize the bottles. We've created an NFT called the Digital Cork, which is your digital twin for the physical bottle. But uniquely, what we've done in the industry is also tokenized experiences. So we've created another NFT called the Tasting Token. And the Tasting Token is your authentic proof of experience that you've tasted that bottle. And it's a way for you to not only have that digital collectible that you can share with your friends, we've tasted this bottle together, but it also provides a way for you to collect rewards, incentives, status from the winemaker. So the more the more tasting tokens you collect, the more status you get with the winery.
Because we've seen, on that particular thing, we've seen a lot, we talked about this last night. In the US, the winemakers, like in Napa Valley, have a direct relationship with a customer, but it's via an email list, or you have to pop in.
Yeah.
And in Europe, they don't have that as much because they've been bigger distribution businesses, etc. But this is a way of, I'm passionate about Web3 for loyalty and this experiences, and you bring everybody together into the same thing. I think it's a really unique way. How do you think these winemakers and others are going to use this kind of proof of experience?
So we actually have a 2-year waiting list of wineries that want to work with us. We actually did our first install last week with Graham's Port, which is the oldest wine company in the world. And so what they're doing is they're re-releasing the 1970 port.
Wow.
So a 50-year-old port, and they're releasing a 2-bottle box, the 1970 and the 2020, so that you can actually taste them against one another. It's kind of cool. But what they're doing with the tasting tokens is, if you take that bottle, you buy it from them, you take it home, you open it and share it with friends, and then you mint tasting tokens for your friends. Each of those tasting tokens earns them a tour at the winery and potentially even a chance at a 1970 bottle. So, each of your friends is getting a $50 or $100 value just from claiming the tasting token.
It's such a clever idea, and it's a way, of getting people to build like community around winemakers.
Yeah.
And the idea, like we've been using POAPs at Real Vision events. So you turn up to this event that people are coming today, and they get a proof of attendance protocol, which is the same thing. It's that I was there for that experience.
Yeah.
And that basically shows you're a good community member. And in the future, you may get rewarded for that community thing. So it builds people who want to do more things, get involved in the community. And it's the same with wine. I mean, if I could do that with some of the vineyards that, I drink a lot of, I mean, I've written whole threads about Rioja. I'm like, somebody should pay me for that. But if I could have some tokens as an appreciation for doing that, I'm likely to buy more wine.
That's exactly right. I mean, what we always say is, typically your winemaker and your wine lover are disconnected by 15 years and 15,000 miles, right? By the time you're tasting the wine, and in this case, with this wine, was made 23 years ago, right? And 5,000 miles away. What we're doing is connecting the winemaker and the wine lover at the moment of consumption, which is really interesting because, when are you most likely to become a fan of a new wine?
You ever do that is when you go to a vineyard.
Right.
And you happen to be able to drink some wine at the vineyard. You're now sharing that experience with a thing.
What we always say is we're taking the tasting room experience and putting it in 1 million living rooms all over the world.
It's a really clever idea because it marries a membership.
Yeah.
So many people are members of wine clubs.
Sure.
But it's that plus a loyalty system that's not just based about how many cases of wine did you buy.
Yeah. It's about not just how much wine you bought, That's interesting, but it's also who you shared that wine with.
Right. Are you a good community member is how I think of it.
Yeah, exactly right.
Because then you can build a community yourself around it.
Yeah.
And then you accrue benefits. Everybody who comes accrues benefits. The vineyard accrues benefits, so everybody wins, which is why I love Web3. I just think it's so powerful as a business model.
Yeah. I mean, we always say that like how you normally get introduced to a new wine is somebody tells you about it, right? Someone pours you a glass of something and says, taste this amazing wine that I've just tried. Well, now what we're doing is tokenizing that experience. So if I pour you this wonderful Chateau Pavie, now you're connected to Chateau Pavie because I can mint you a tasting token, and now you're connected with that brand, and the brand can reach out to you and say, hey, you know, your friend Dave just poured you an amazing bottle. If you want to be more invested in the brand, or if you want to join our community, we'd love to have you come for a tasting, or we'd love to offer you a bottle from our cellar.
How do they? One of the problems with this Web3 is it's all well and good. I've got a token in my wallet.
Yeah.
How do they communicate with me?
So we've created kind of an opt-in program. So when you claim a tasting token, you actually have 3 different sort of options. You can say, I want to be connected with every winery that I claim a tasting token for. Yeah. I want to be connected with no wineries that I claim a tasting token for, or I want to choose every time. So you as the consumer, just through our app, you can say, oh, I want to be connected with that winery because I love that wine and I want to get incentives and rewards and status with that winery. Or I don't want to be connected with that winery.
And if I've earned a lot because I happen to like wine, not giving away the fact that I drink a lot of wine, but let's assume that I did.
Sure.
Can I then transfer those to somebody else?
So tasting tokens are non-transferable.
Because it's an experience that has to be unique to me.
That's exactly right. But the rewards can be. So let's say you collect 5 tasting tokens, and that earns you a winemaker dinner at Chateau Pavie, right? You might take that winemaker dinner and say, you know what, I'm not really interested in going to Saint-Emilion and sitting in their beautiful winery and having a winemaker dinner with their 2-star Michelin chef. I don't want that. But what you could do is basically take that experience and sell that experience online, that experience being tokenized. But your tasting tokens themselves are non-transferable.
So how have the vineyards, I mean, I know they'll like it in concept, but how do they like it in reality? I mean, do they get their heads around it?
Well, we're moving very slowly, right? The wine industry is, we always say it's worked the same way for 1,000 years. We like to think that we're building the platform for the next 1,000 years. And so we're not in a rush. We're moving really slowly. We're doing one winery at a time. And like I said, we've got a 2-year waiting list for wineries that are interested in doing a pilot program. So, you know, the wineries that we're working with right now are all names that you know, but they're kind of the forward-thinking wineries that are really looking to not only create more experiences around their brand, but also reach out to the next generation of wine consumers.
So talking about the other side of the equation, which is the wine itself and how you're tokenizing that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people know that real world assets and authenticity is going to go on chain, and you're doing it.
Yeah.
So I'd love to explain, and you can also explain a bit about the wine while we're doing it as well.
Yeah. So this is the Chateau Pavie 2000. This is a Grand Cru from Saint-Emilion. This wine was a 100-point wine by Robert Parker. It's widely considered to be one of the best wines, one of the best vintages out of Bordeaux in the last, 25 years. So
I remember with the 2000s, I bought a bunch on Primeur, and they were super expensive because it was Millennium. And then everyone said, well, the wine's not that good. It dropped in price, and then they exploded.
It's amazing now.
Yeah.
This wine is, and you don't have quite enough, so I'm going to pour you a little bit more.
This is why I like him.
So what we've done with these bottles is we've attached an NFC sticker, a near field communication sticker. Now, this one, you can't even really see it. It's on the back of the bottle. It's waterproof, tamper-proof. If you tried to scrape it off, it wouldn't work, but you can put it in an ice bucket for 24 hours and it still works. And what you do is you just, you tap your phone to that and it pops up. Oops. And it pops up. And then this is the NFT that you see. So what we did with the creative for the NFT is we just did a little 12-second video, and it sort of tells the story of the wine. It goes from the vineyard to the winery to the winemaker to the bottle.
This before, so this is the first time me seeing this. This is genius.
And you see the little blue check mark in the corner means that this wine was sourced directly from the winery. So we also have a green check mark, which means that the wine is sourced from retail, either a restaurant or one of our retail partners, or a white check mark, which means that it was authenticated and it was part of a private seller. So we really have three different layers of, or three different categories of provenance. But more than the creative, we've also got all of these kind of, all of the great, metadata. So I'm doing this upside down, so forgive me. But like all the metadata that you could ever want to know about the wine, from the, how the vineyard, the size of the vineyard, the aspect of the sun,
type of soil, everything.
How it was made in the, how the wine was made in the winery, from percent alcohol to how long in oak to everything, right? But what's cool about this is now that I've opened the physical bottle, I can also pull the digital cork. So I click here, it's gonna look at my, it's gonna actually pull up my wallet, ask me to sign a quick message. I sign that message, I click open the bottle, sorry. And now what's happened really interestingly is this bottle is now open. So we've taken that original digital cork and burned it. Right. So now everybody knows, we know, the winemaker knows, the whole world knows that there's one less bottle of the 2000 Chateau Pavie out there in the world, right? That original NFT is destroyed. But it creates a new NFT for me that is the tasting token, right? This is my authentic proof of experience. And I can go look at that. And then in a second, I can click mint. And again, it's going to ask me to sign a message with my wallet. And now I've got a QR code that you could scan with your phone, and you can claim this tasting token in about 2 seconds. And we did that last night with the wines that we poured after the event. But and lots of people claim them. In fact, we've done a lot of Real Vision events where people have claimed tasting tokens. It takes 2 seconds. Even if you don't have a wallet, you can claim it. We've done 50 events last year in 12 countries, and brought about 2,000 people on the platform.
So, but what's to say that I just don't put something else, any other wine in this? How do we know that the wine I'm opening is the wine I'm drinking?
So as of right now, there aren't really any good technical solutions for that. We think there will be in the future.
Yeah, because
right.
Why don't they put it on the?
They're starting to do some of that, although everything that we've seen is really easy to defeat. We've seen
and when there's
lots
money
of different
involved,
technical
people will find ways around.
Right. What we've done is tried to really solve that problem with mass adoption and transparency, right? So let's say you do that. Let's say you put a needle in there, you pull out the Chateau Pavie, you drink the Chateau Pavie, and you put in some like fruit juice, and you try to go sell that. Well, you can do that. However, because that NFT's on the blockchain, like there's a couple of, the Interpol is going to only have a few people to look for when they investigate it. So they know who sold it in the chain, right?
Yeah.
And also, you might be able to do that once, but you can't really do it at scale. And really, no one is really incentivized to fake one bottle, right? You're only incentivized, like Rudy Kurwan, to do 1,000 bottles, right? And this would have foiled Rudy Kurwan like the second time, because you would have looked and you'd be like, hey, too many people are complaining about this guy, or it doesn't, it's not really working. So because we're using the blockchain to track every single bottle, the transparency really, we think it defeats fraud and counterfeit in a good enough way for right now, until the technology catches up.
And who puts that tag on the bottles? Is it the winemakers themselves? They agree to be part of the program.
Yeah.
And they trial it all out and say, well, let's see how this goes.
Exactly.
And we will put up all of this year's release or a parcel of it and just say.
So we've been mostly working with library releases. So for two reasons. One, because they're usually
When
smaller.
you say library release, what do you mean?
So I mean, like the 2000 Chateau Pavie. Like they gave us, we worked with Chateau Pavie. We got the last, I don't know, the last 60 cases of the 2000. We did the 96 Chateau Margaux a few weeks ago. I think we got the last 30 cases of that. The Louis Latour Carton Charlemagne, 1999. So like all of these older vintages for a couple reasons. One, because there's a limited number and we can really keep track of them. And two, because they're kind of ready to drink. So the winemakers are getting the data and they're getting that community right away. If we were putting them only on new releases, it'd be 20 years before the winemakers were getting any data or before the bottles were getting opened and tasting tokens were being minted.
And so what are the winemakers finding? What kind of information are they now getting versus selling it to far vintners who then distribute it and they lose track of everything? What do they now get?
What they get really more than anything else is kind of customer acquisition, and they get to know who their real customers are.
That's right.
You know, we talked to
So
Chateau
not the wine distributors, the wine dealers anymore.
Chateau Palmer is a really good example.
Yeah.
You know, it's a great, wonderful, wonderful winery in Bordeaux. So they have a beautiful chateau. They've got a Michelin star chef who makes these wonderful lunches. It's a fantastic place. They have zero hospitality. And the reason for that is because they get 1,000 requests a day, right? Everybody wants to go and visit Chateau Palmer, but they have no idea who their best customers are. So what this does is it allows them to start identifying the best customers, their most loyal customers, the people that are sharing their wine with new people. And those are the people they're going to start inviting to the winery.
And I'm seeing very similar in high-end luxury fashion and other stuff. Mm-hmm. It's exactly the same customer. Well, same kind of customer. Same kind of customer.
Watches.
Which is why LVMH own both all the wines and all the high-end stuff. It's the same kind of customer. And they have the problem with fakes, authenticity, experiences. They don't have a direct relationship with the customer. If not, you need to go into a store. It becomes complex. Exactly. And we're seeing the Arnaud kids who are all now getting involved in Web3 saying, how can we take Tiffany? How can we take all the brands in exactly the same way?
Exactly.
Because it seems the future of luxury is the community that can be built around it, and then the loyalty that comes with the bragging rights of, hey, I opened a Chateau Pavie.
Well, that's the other thing about this, right? Is like, you know, typically your wine cellar is stored in a, you know, cave under your house, right? Nobody knows what wines you have. But if all of your wines are digital, you can now flex a little bit, right? Not just the wines that you own or the allocation lists that you're on or the great wines that you've tasted. Right now, people are doing that with blurry photos on Instagram. This is a way to you know, for the younger generation to kind of, you know, flex the cool brands that they're associated with. Not just that, but also the experiences that they have with those brands.
And also, there's the brand affiliations that come with that. So let's say I know that there's a group of people who've drunk a bunch of expensive wine, and I am a fashion brand. I can do a partnership and say, hey, listen, your token holders can come to my event.
We've already been approached by Bentley, who wants to do. They want to allow our token holders, depending on, you know, people that have certain tasting tokens, allow them into their private pavilion at the F1, right? So we're starting to get those people already. I mean, Bentley was right off the bat the first people to reach out to us. So I think that's pretty interesting, right?
And the other thing that you and I spoke about last night is what I have seen. There was one of the largest distillers and distributors in Australia were using it for supply chain management.
Oh yeah.
So they're saying, okay, as opposed to selling you the wine, you buy the NFT. So let's say you're a giant hotel chain and you want to buy 10,000 cases, but you don't know if you're going to sell 10,000. So we can sell them to you as NFTs, and then you can sell them in the secondary market to offload your inventory or quickly accumulate new inventory because you've sold a lot.
100%. I mean, not just that, but also the ability for some of these European wineries to start following the lead of the, you know, your California wineries that are now 95% direct to consumer. The European wineries can start dipping their toes in that water, and that'll make them not only a lot more profitable, but we've talked a little bit about that, the NFC sticker, right? So you could actually track an individual bottle of wine all the way through the supply chain through that RFID or NFC sticker. So imagine, this is a conversation that we had a couple of weeks ago. So with a few integrations with a couple of different logistics providers, imagine being able to track a bottle of wine from the winery to the consumer, and the entire way being able to calculate the carbon footprint, for example, of that individual unique bottle of wine. And then through the smart contract saying, hey, the consumer at the moment of retail purchase needs to pay some sort of a premium to pay for the carbon offset. So wine, which is unfortunately, full of, wine is full of environmentalists, but the wine industry has a terrible carbon footprint because you're moving these heavy bottles all over the world. You can actually make the wine industry carbon neutral, which is really, really interesting.
I wonder if you can have some sort of memory from the sticker that could tell temperature.
Oh yeah. No, we're already doing that. So
then
that's an easy thing to do.
Well, then you've got the probability of your wine being spoiled. So you're buying it from a wine distributor or your even local fancy wine store where they bought some nice wines. And the amount of wine like that I buy in the Cayman Islands, and it's been corked because it's been cooked, because it's set on a runway somewhere or whatever. But just knowing, oh, this wine has never got above 75 degrees or whatever.
Not just
23
that,
degrees.
but that all of those provenance points, all of the individual, pieces of data along the supply chain, that can all be recorded on the blockchain. So imagine, and again, this kind of goes back to the fraud and counterfeit or the provenance conversation. You can, if you're looking at two different bottles of the 2000 Chateau Pavie, and one of them has sat at Chateau Pavie for 22 years, and the other one, had an owner in Singapore, and then an owner in Rio de Janeiro, and then Austin, and then New York, and it's traveled all over the world, you're going to pay less for the bottle that has traveled all over the world than the one that has sat at the winery for 23 years. And that price differential will also create a real disincentive against fraud or, poor provenance.
David, this is amazing. I think, the wine's amazing, so thank you for opening such an incredible... You're welcome. But also, just, passionately love this whole idea about using blockchain technology to solve, real problems, but also creating entirely new business models. So,
yeah.
Cheers.
Well, thanks.
Well done.
They would kill me if I didn't tell you. One of the reasons that we're here is we have a club. We have an NFT club that's part of Club dVIN.
Yep.
A lot of RealVision members are members of Club dVIN.
Yep.
We have a friends and family offer that ends tomorrow, actually.
Where do people find this?
It's at clubdvin.com, but we've also whitelisted everyone that has a RealVision token, whether it's the Pro Crypto or the community token.
Yep.
Everyone is whitelisted into our friends and family. So if they want to,
it's super exciting, yeah, and a lot of fun. I just think it's an amazing journey you're going down, and hopefully a lot of people support you with it as well.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, not at all.
I appreciate it.
Great,
all right,
thank
take
you.
care. Salute.